What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Bowery Ballroom, and today we are here with Tyler Bryant of Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming out early before the storm hits.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I know as soon as I leave the venue here today, I'm just going to get downpoured on. That's why I'm wearing a hoodie in this humid
I was talking more about the Shakedown show.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crazy tonight.
No, wow, that was a pun. I totally went over my head.
I love it. No, it does seem like it's gonna storm outside too, though.
Yeah. But it's so awesome to have you here. Truth and Lies, your latest record, is absolutely awesome. Do you just want to give a rundown on how the making of the record was?
Yeah. So we actually made it not far from here in Brooklyn, and So basically, the way that we kind of craft songs is we just get together and hang out and make music for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine that. And we ended up with, we had 55 songs to start with that we made demos for in my home studio, just because why not? You know, when we basically would have a couple days off the road, we would get together and just make up a song a day pretty much. And we narrowed that down to 27 songs, you know, over a band hang at the kitchen table, and then we learned all 27, and then we drove up to Brooklyn, got an apartment, and camped out at Studio G for 2.5 weeks.
I was just there today.
Really?
Yep.
Or with
Great friends of
Joel
ours.
and those guys?
Yep.
Yeah. So we made the record there, and then the turnaround was like that, and now it's out.
Now that since you had to cut it down from 55 to 27 to there's 13 songs
Yeah.
on this record, you ever worried that the songs you crop out are going to be on a B-side and just be the biggest hit you guys ever had?
Yeah, no, I mean I don't really think about it too much, but they are there. You know, I know that just because they didn't make the record doesn't mean that they're gone forever.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple songs on this record that weren't, for example, there's a song called Out There. I wrote that song, I believe, 6 years ago.
Wow.
And it's just been sitting there. And then we had a kind of a gap in the songs that were chosen where we needed a breather in the album, and it was like, wait, what about this song?
Yeah.
And it works. So, you know, that just because certain tunes didn't make the record doesn't mean that they die forever, you know. That's why I make really intense demos of everything, so that otherwise they will get forgotten.
Yeah.
Because I forget the songs I'm supposed to sing every night, you know.
Of course. One thing I've always been curious about, especially with this record, is I noticed it had a great rock vibe to it, but there was many different emotions. I thought, there's some slower songs on here, there's some more faster songs on here. Is it fair to say that you write what you feel, and you do feel many different emotions in the songwriting process?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had a hard time staying in one box. You know, I grew up cutting my teeth on the blues, and then I got really into punk rock, and then I got really into 90s grunge. And I'm also from, a small town in Texas, so George Jones and Keith Whitley and a lot of these great country artists, they were always very prominent in what I was listening to as well. So I think that's one of the things that I love most about the Shakedown is we kind of bounce around within our sound, I feel like there is a cohesive element to all the songs on the record, but it's like we think about it kind of like a movie, where if it's just action the whole time, then it's boring. But if it's just love scenes the whole time, then it's boring. And it's like you almost want it to take you on this journey, like a good book or something, for those who are interested in the album. And then, there's a little bit of something for everyone if you're into just picking songs.
Yeah, of course. And songwriting is a completely separate talent from just being able to, somebody could pick up a guitar and shred like Yngwie Malmsteen, sure, but writing a song and arranging composition is a completely separate mind frame. It has to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things I realized early on. I got really, obviously I was always grateful whenever people would say, oh, he's a prodigy or blah, stuff like that. But it's like you want to be known as a full package artist. And I realized that, especially with YouTube and Instagram and stuff, there's always an 8-year-old who can play guitar better than you, and there's 100 of them.
Yeah.
Give it with any given hashtag or whatever. So it's all, for me, it's all about finding ways to tastefully incorporate the guitar into the songwriting, rather than just having the song be an excuse to get to the guitar solo.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And, there's always bands, there's some bands that are more guitar-driven, some, more rhythm-driven, whatever, but you try to make everything cohesively work together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of with this record is I feel like we did find a way to make the guitars sort of lift up the song rather than it just be about the guitars.
Yeah. Now, in addition to having, songs and guitar work, you also have to focus on lyrics. Do you need to hear music before you come up with lyrics, or can a concept or subject matter ever help determine or arrange composition?
Yeah, there's not really a set way. A lot of the times, it'll be like, you think of a title first and you write it down and then you jot down a couple of lines of like what you were kind of thinking, or I'm constantly writing down ideas, and then whenever music starts to happen, sometimes I'll scroll through my ideas or pull out a journal, and then other times it's like, you might have, for example, Shock and Awe. I had pretty much all of those lyrics sussed out, and I wrote that song 1 or 2 times before we got together with, it was Graham and Noah, and Graham's little brother Harry came over, and they just came over to my house to hang out, and we started jamming, of course. And I was like, I got some words that will work over this, and lo and behold, a song. So there's not really a set method. It's just collecting ideas, and then whenever you have the time, piecing them together. I call it throwing paint, and it's like let's hang out and throw some paint at the wall and see if anything pretty happens. And no pressure. I hate trying to create with this big expectation of we need to make something that's successful, or we need to make something that's like this, or we need to make something like this, because then all of a sudden it's like I feel like you stifle what could potentially happen by putting expectation on it. So we just throw paint at the wall and hopefully get something pretty, and if not, at least you showed up and did the work, because no song ever happened by someone not trying to pull it down from the atmosphere.
And do you like to leave maybe like your lyrics open to interpretation, or are you trying to maybe like engage a listener to maybe sort of see things from your point of view?
It just depends. I think as a songwriter, it's good to leave enough holes, enough cracks in the story for someone to be able to fit themselves into it and figure out how this song relates to them in their own life. That's one of my favorite things about a lot of my favorite songwriters is I might hear it one way one year and then another way the next year, depending on what's going on in my life. But yeah, and then there's other songs that are a little more on the nose or direct, like. But yeah.
And another question is, we talked about the songwriting and, lyrics and stuff, but then there's also the essence of bringing it live. When you are playing live, do you try to execute the material exactly how people are hearing it on the album, or do you try to maybe intentionally make the live presence a little bit different than what people are going to hear?
I think sometimes I set out to try and make it as close to the record as possible, but even on the record, like all the guitar solos, a lot of the vocal stuff is just ad-lib. And so what I've realized about this band is when we try to make too many, it's a lot like songwriting. When you try to make too many plans or make it one thing, it just ends up sucking the life out of it. So a lot of times we'll make a set list and then do something totally different. We don't use any tracks. We're not supplementing the live show with anything other than our instruments and our voices. And a guitar solo that's this long on the record could be this long live, or shorter, just depending on the way the crowd is reacting to it. We kind of just feed off of the crowd,
And with guitar soloing, is there like a theoretical aspect behind it? Like you have to work off of this scale and this mode and this key, or is it all improvised?
It's all improvised. I never learned any theory. I mean, I know the names of a lot of the chords I use, but I never learned any scales. I just kind of listened to my favorite records. For me, music has always been about not thinking, it's about getting away and like being free in that sort of place that it can take you to. And that's why every solo is pretty much different live, and that's one I love a lot of the solos on the record, because some of them were just 1 or 2 takes, and then Joel was like, no, you're done. We got the emotion. And so it's there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, it's like a steak. If you overcook it, it's just gonna be horrible.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And a lot of the things that I probably would have overanalyzed and changed ended up becoming my favorite things on the record because it's got the personality and the human quality to it.
Yeah, of course.
So.
And I have 2 more questions for you, if that's cool. What I've noticed is, the last time you played, you were playing with Seven Dust and Clutch, which, I would say has a little bit, you're on this tour right now with the Temperance Movement, which has kind of like a different sort of sound, maybe a different type of audience, depending on who you tour with. I feel like you have a sound that could really identify with a lot of old school rock fans, a lot of new school rock fans. Have you noticed maybe different types of audiences depending on who you tour with?
Yeah, I mean, this is a band. We've done shows with like B.B. King and Buddy Guy, and then Seven Dust and Clutch, and AC/DC to Zakk Wylde, to Blackberry Smoke. Like, it's been all over the place, but I think rock and roll just translates, and there's enough. That's what I said. Like, there's a little bit of something for everyone with this band. It's not just active rock, and it's not just metal. It's not just blues. It's not just ballads. I'd like to think that there's something, for the young and the old and the hip and the hipless and, everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You're never too young or too old for rock and roll. I see a lot of young and older fans that could appreciate you guys.
I know. That's what I thought was so cool about being on the AC/DC tour. I thought there was going to be a lot of old people, and there were so many kids.
Yep.
And then a lot of parents were coming with their kids, and it was awesome to see like a young generation, feeding on rock and roll.
Of course. I saw that with King's X last week.
Oh, dude, I love King's X.
Oh, my God. Some of the nicest guys, too.
Really?
Yeah.
I always wanted to meet Doug Pinnick.
Oh, my God. He's the nicest human being I've ever met.
Shout out Doug Pinnick.
Yep. He's also quite the character, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to meet him.
Yeah. I'd love to.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. That'd be a good tour for you guys.
Yeah, it'd be an awesome tour.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is kind of going back to the songwriting process, because you mentioned, you have to pick certain elements and, you have to narrow things down. So at what point, how do you know when a song is done?
Oh, man, that's a hard one.
It's everybody I've interviewed, the hardest question.
Yeah, it's I mean, for me, the song is done when the record's released, because then you can't really change it anymore. But I mean, still.
You could always do the radio edit or the...
Yeah, with a couple of the songs, even after the record's released, I might change a few lyrics here and there, but I don't think about it too much in the early phase of a song. It's always just sort of stream of conscious, write it, and not overanalyze it. And then if it has legs when the band plays it, then go in and tweak it and tighten it up. Because if I start overthinking something, I just kill it. It just dies in my heart.
Yeah.
So it's just write it, make a little recording of it, show it to the band if they like it, work it up, let everyone put their spin on it. Then, I don't know. That's tricky because sometimes there's not really a definitive moment, I guess, until the record comes out.
Yeah. Some people say it's just not finished, it's just abandoned. So.
Yeah. But then again, we've had so many producers go, "Oh yeah, that song, we don't that you need to go write this section or you need to do this," and we either take that on board or we say no, we don't. It's finished. Yeah.
Yeah. The producers or the mixers are always like the 5th or 6th. If you're in Slipknot, the 10th Beatle. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, absolutely. We just try to move from a place of integrity within the band and say, like, how do we feel about this? Because ultimately we're the ones who have to play the songs every night. And will our fans believe us? Are we being honest? Are we being true to, kind of our mission, which is just to fly our version of the rock and roll flag as high and proud as we can.
Yeah. And I saw a lot of honesty with your band because, some people could be like, "Oh, it's just rock," like, which to me that's ludicrous to say, but like I think you guys have your own sound. I've always said the sound is familiar yet fresh.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big compliment. I'll say whenever we met Axl Rose for the first time, he said something along the same lines. He's like, "It's like a lot of the old stuff that everybody loves, but it's new. It doesn't sound like that." So I thought that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. It's going to be a kick-ass show tonight.
You better believe it, man. Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
People have been talking about this show since like the tour was announced.
So. Oh yeah. I'm so excited, man, and it's a pleasure to be out with Temperance and Thomas Wynn and the Believers. Two great rock bands, and we've been pretty lucky. The last few times we've come through New York, we've played with some heavy hitters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's New York, we bring it.
Yeah,
Is
love
there
it.
is there just anything else after this tour that you would like to promote in terms of other tours or music or anything else going on?
there's some
If you're allowed to say.
Yeah, there's some other tours. We're getting ready to announce one that I'm really excited about for Europe, and we just announced some French shows, some more American festivals. Yeah, there's a lot of shows going to be announced soon.
Awesome.
A whole bunch of them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tyler.
Thank you, dude.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Everybody, Tyler Bryant of Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. Be sure to pick up Truth and Lies if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.